Into order at 5 o'clock.
File the data.
You never talk too much about it. As we gather here today, we acknowledge and are grateful for the opportunity to meet, work, and offer healthcare on the traditional territories for the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, and the Chinanta. Indigenous peoples have been stewards of this land since time immemorial. We recognize their connection to the land and thank their elders, past and present, for their many contributions. Welcome, everyone. It's great to see everyone again. I can confirm that we do have quorum. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest? All right, seeing none. There's a very full consent agenda ahead of you. Quite a few of the items already came through committees, in particular resources. Are there any items that board members would like removed from the consent agenda for further discussion? Paulo.
I just had a question. It might be able to be answered or can be pulled later, just in regards to the governance policy approvals for the confidentiality policy.
Is it a clarification question or a discussion around something in the policy?
Something for potential amendment or addition to the policy or for further consideration.
Okay, then why don't we pull that out? And so is it, okay, so 2-A-24?
Correct.
All right, so we'll add 2-A-24 as item 4.4 after approach to 26-27 board and committee goals. Would any other members like an item removed for discussion or would like to ask a quick clarification question? That's okay. Or did you want to check something before we? No, okay. All right, may I have someone make a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended? Margaret, thank you. Seconder. Bill, thank you. Any additional questions or comments? Anyone opposed? Carried. May I have someone make a motion to approve the agenda as amended? Sarah, thank you. Seconder. Paula, thank you. Any additional questions or comments? Anyone opposed? Carried. All right. So now we will move on to item 2.1, starting on page 117. I'm going to pass it over to Patrick for the annual Truth and Reconciliation Plan. I just first want to say that I'm sure we all recognize going through the plan how strongly and seriously CMH, the approach to this, and just notice that it is not, it hasn't been approached as a one-off. It's been very much continuous, ongoing, strong work in this area. So with that, I'll pass it over to Pat.
Super. Thank you very much. And thank you for that acknowledgement. I will just do a bit of a page turn. I know you've had a chance to read it, but just want to just, I'll rest on each page for a brief moment. In front of you right now is the framework that we use. As you can tell, it's aligned to the Ontario Health Framework. And we spent a lot of time trying to pick our framework at the beginning as we were mapping out the plan, and then Ontario Health came up with the plan, with the framework, and we said, let's use that. What we don't use is the orange circle around it, which is coordinate regional and provincial programs and services. That's not really in our bailiwick, but the four elements within that circle clearly are. On next page, you see the journey. As Lynn's referenced, it's been deliberate effort over a number of years, and we just wanted to celebrate and recognize that. Under the first, next slide, under the first pillar of build and enhance capacity, I thought with each pillar I'd rest on kind of my favorite on the achievements and my favorite on the work ahead, or just kind of one on the achievements, one on the work ahead. I think really a call out on that first bullet under achievements is the work that we've done and continue to do and promote around Indigenous cultural safety training, offering it to staff. They have to do it at on their own time, but we've sort of year after year continue to offer that. Leaders with a high percentage of completion of it, senior leaders with almost 100%. Just as we onboard a new senior leader, we need to get them to enroll, not get them to enroll. We need to just arrange that for them. And so just really that commitment to it. And on the work ahead, the ERG, which I don't think we spelled out, the Employee Resource Group. So we have an Indigenous Council, but across the organization, Marie's been leading an initiative to complete or to introduce employee resource groups in a number of defined populations and groups. And this is one of them that we are promoting and encouraging recruitment, where we can bring Indigenous staff together to help advise and influence and shape the organization. Under the next slide, build and sustain productive relationships. I tried to go back. So the first bullet again, the regional under the achievements, the Regional Indigenous Advisory Circle, led by Elder Henry, and the work that Miangan does is in bringing together First Nations, Inuit and Métis residents of Waterloo region to help inform us and guide us. Marie and I have the opportunity to participate in the retreat and to be part of that. I tried to go back to figure out when it started. I actually couldn't find the first meeting, but it has been like a journey of a year plus. And in terms of the work ahead, I wanted just to highlight the SOAC partnership. So the Southwest Ontario Aboriginal Health Access Center, right across the street, the Indigenous Patient Navigator, Jamie Macbeth. We've had a number of patient navigators over time as they've moved on to other roles within the organization or beyond. Jamie's been with us for a while. She's dedicated to CMH and GGH only. She got to, which is nice that they've been able to create a navigator just focused on 2 hospitals. She's been carrying a bit of a larger load up until next week, but she'll be able to refocus back on CMH and GGH. She is doing a lunch and learn later this month as part of Indigenous Peoples History Month. And so continued work that Stephanie helps lead in terms of embedding Jamie within the organization and helping support Indigenous patients as they navigate the healthcare system. Under equitable access to culturally safe care, we got to talk about the art along Wing A. You just have to. So what Luke and Alana have done, and kind of TBD is there's more work around level 1, the Wing B, so the elevator lobby further down the hall, and not as big a space, but they are working on it. And I've seen the preliminary work of they are doing for that Wing B lobby as well. And then drawing the third bullet there as well under the work ahead, the smudging policy. We've had a smudging policy for a number of years, led by work through Leanne Barefoot. And then now we are updating that and working to just recognize how to make it more accessible, looking for 24/7 access to it, providing bundles for staff for easy access to staff. So just work ahead, I think, is really important. Again, coming back to the Truth and Reconciliation call to action 22. This is clearly, we want to continue the focus on offering Indigenous health and healing services within the organization. And then finally, under measure and monitor and evaluate, SOHAC did an internal organizational assessment, asked us to complete that, and we have completed and submitted that. We're waiting for them to provide any advice and findings on that. That is yet to happen. But the second bullet there on the Service Accountability Agreement, we have a report that's due in August. Received that from Ontario Health yesterday in terms of the reporting requirements for 25-26 for the year that we've just completed. I've looked at the submission, what's required for the submission, and proudly will be able to check many of the boxes in it in terms of the obligations, the work that we do. And then finally, on the last slide, or the slide is the goals, but then the slide after that. So I think that's self-explanatory, but we have taken the plan to our Indigenous Council, which met last week and got some advice from them. I don't think we didn't have time to take it to the circle which also met last week. And so we'll be on the Indigenous Advisory Circle agenda for the June meeting in order to get feedback on more on the details as it relates to 26, 27. With that, I'm happy to pause and take any questions.
Thanks, Patrick. What questions do people have for Patrick on the?
So I was curious about systemic and non-systemic barriers to members of the Indigenous community seeking care here and what those might be.
Yes, so I guess, in terms of, so I think there's a number, like, as we worked with SOPAC to make sure that, because one of the roles with the Indigenous patient navigators to help with the barriers that we create within the organization. Some of them, I think one of the fundamental ones is we don't have a process for self-identification at this stage, like a defined process for that. The issue of data governance has been left at a provincial level in order to resolve that in terms of gathering data so that we actually know how to provide service. So I think that's one of the systemic barriers. The work that we're doing, I didn't highlight it, but that we're doing with Crowshield Lodge right now is we're been engaged with Clarence around microeducation for staff. So I think to try to reduce those barriers is helping staff understand the needs of Indigenous people and how do we respond to that. And through the work that Jamie and Stephanie and I have had several conversations about how to more embed Jamie into the work. And how do we enable that? How do we, she's very committed. We're very committed to doing that and making those connections for patients with a navigator who they feel safe and comfortable with, I think is critical. Those are some of them. I don't know if.
Yeah, I mean, I think from the women and children's lens, we've had a gap analysis done by an Indigenous nurse. And so there are a number of things that we're putting in place in regards to that. So when seeking care or respecting tradition, ritual, any cultural practice, we were trying to embed that and provide education to staff. So, we're hopeful that as Jamie now will be freed up from her dual role, that she can come attend. She sits at my patient services, which is all the leaders. She's an open invitation at any time. We're trying to get her space within the organization, like things like that, just so people know how to access her as quickly as they can, because we're not always sure and without the self-identification. But if somebody during care self-identifies, we want to be able to bring the care that's appropriate for them. So, yeah.
Answer the permit.
What, Sarah?
Thanks, Patrick. And I have seen all the work that being delivered in this, which is great. My question is, do you get feedback from Indigenous communities as to how do they feel for progressing with respect to Indigenous reconciliation? Like if they were to, put a report card on us, are we kind of like, okay, are we doing fine? Are we great? I don't know what kind of feedback you get. Or even from, different conversations?
Most of it has come through the Indigenous Advisory Circle. I wasn't at the last meeting, Marie was. So just in terms of experiences the individual members have had or members within their communities. So I don't think I have a good answer, like a fair and objective answer to it at this stage. We have not had any issues raised in that forum that have required sort of intervention or attention, like specific ones and experiences that they've said this happened in the last 4 weeks that they were at your organization, something about it. But I don't consider that a gold star on the report card. I think we don't have the mechanisms to kind of fully explore that at this stage.
Questions to people.
Marie looked like she wanted to weigh in on that.
Okay, so if I can just add to that, at the last Indigenous Advisory Council meeting, I think one of the opportunities that we do have is to share more of our experiences. between Ren, between ourselves and some other of the healthcare partners in the organization, in the region, so that we can take these individual situations and kind of be able to share, how could we have done this better? How could we take this as a learning opportunity for the broader region? And so I think that's where the opportunity is, because there is no standard way to assess how we're progressing against this. And that's been the challenge. So it's been very situational, and that's what we're hoping to do, is start a collection of the situational experiences so that we can talk about what it might mean for us as improvements from a regional perspective.
I think that makes so much sense, Marie, because we talk so often here about not reinventing the wheel and learning from others and all of that. And as you said, because you can't be anticipating situations all the time. I think that makes so much sense.
And we also have to recognize and appreciate that we don't have the volume of experiences here either. And so let's benefit from the collective group around that. And the council members are, come with lived experience. And so they can also help by guidance around situations. And we just have to find the right balance of how much we can share. But I think what a great opportunity, and they're seeking that from us. And that was one specific request that came from the last council meeting, so that we could learn and be better.
One of the other ones, and again, it doesn't answer the question, but contributes to how we might get answers to the question, is even our website doesn't, if you put in the word Indigenous, you'll get very little, if anything, around. And so that's been acknowledged, recognized by the Circle. Ren has a much more detailed information on their website around how to access services. We've talked about Jamie, the Indigenous Patient Navigator. There's also a separate cancer navigator. And so we've worked with Melanie in terms of, so cancer patients have access to a separate Indigenous cancer navigator. So how do we make that information available on our website right now? Not there. And we are trying to, before the end of the summer, have updated information on the website again to sort of help people know ways to contact the organization, connect with Indigenous support, connect with patient experience if they have a complaint or a concern to address as well. So just trying to make sure that they can find kind of elements of how to connect with the hospital in meaningful ways.
Yeah.
It's not really a question, more of just a comment or just an observation. Like, I really found the report was a great summary of sort of seeing and watching the journey, like, because obviously even before the time I was here, but it is really, like, it struck me as very impressive how you've committed to the journey, you're building on the journey, and still kind of that walking together. So I think there's so many organizations that would have not gone to this level, or sort of like it peters off as it gets out of the news and it's not as popular. But really, you should be commended for the commitment to continue to grow, which, and I would think that, there may not be a matrix to measure it, but I would think this would be considered like a bit of a gold standard in an organization, whether it be a hospital or somewhere else, just for that continued commitment. So certainly great job. And you can see it's one of your objectives in your leadership, and it's certainly, I think, you can't measure it, but I think the sense is that the care is there, right? And the commitment to grow and to learn and to be on that journey.
Yeah.
So great job.
Thank you. And like shared across, I look at the senior leaders at the end of the table, and like it is, like it's not Patrick's project. It's a commitment of our organization. And so, and as we know, as you all have studied, done SANIAS, just the harm caused by colonization and the work ahead. And so it's an organizational commitment, and that we're proud of where we are. There's still lots to do for sure.
Additional questions or comments? Okay, thank you. Right, no business arising, so we'll move on to new business item 4.1, and Bill, report to the board from quality.
Thanks so much, Lynn. So we had a busy quality meeting in May, but hopefully you've read the package, as well as there was a lot of additional presentations in the additional packages. Lots of good information that was presented at quality. So first of all, we had the presentation from the Optive Services. So always like to talk about kind of what they do. I always find it interesting of kind of where that fits into the overall hospital experience. So just some quick data, 8 operational theaters, 5 to 6 rooms run daily. This kind of amazing stat, 8,200 or 8,212 procedures completed in the main OR last year. And certainly, hip and knee replacement, cataracts, gallbladder, shoulder orthoscopics, laparoscopic appendectomy, and hernia repair. So again, a whole host of clinical services by certainly the RNs, the RPNs, the surgeons, surgical assistants, anesthesiologists, and the operating room attendants. One thing, certainly the medical devices reprocessing department, certainly the backbone of the clinical department, responsible for the decontamination, the sterilization, the packaging of all of the medical devices, and certainly a behind the scenes role, but certainly a vital role to that area of the hospital. And this was amazing. 120,185 instruments, equipment processed in 2025. So very much high level. So a couple of things that they talked about, the patient story. So a patient just talked about how grateful they were. It was a patient that was here for surgery, plus had an overnight stay, but just how they expressed the kindness, the professionalism, and the compassion, and just easing them, because obviously they felt a bit overwhelmed and uncertain about the whole process, but how they felt so cared for and comforted, regular check-ins, and just how they felt not only with their physical needs were addressed, but also their emotional needs was looked after on here. The staff story is certainly a great example of a PSW. She's a role model and a champion for exemplifying collaboration, compassion, and patient-centered approach. She identifies and implements efficiencies to enhance patient care and workflow, and contributes to the professional practice initiatives. There's a number of quality initiatives that the group is working through, so a good opportunity to understand that. One of the projects that's been talked about, the Pictacular, so it's an AI-enabled operating room pick list decision support system. I think it's been on. I think I've seen it on LinkedIn, and certainly a great project. So just if you don't know a little bit, just a quick overview of what it was what it is. It's OR maintains surgeon-specific lists for the same procedure, so all the items that they need. But they're finding a lot of the lists are sort of overlapping and there's small differences. So this AI program, working with the University of Waterloo, they developed an interactive decision support platform to analyze that pick list. And it really just gives the operators to visualize, kind of those variations in the pick list. And really what it leads to then, or it could lead to, is that tool to help compare the list side by side and just review usages, make sure things don't go out of date. And then potentially like cost, you're getting that cost savings consolidation of these lists, and really just a key indicator, right, of how to improve efficiency. So the project earned the Sustainable Design Award. So certainly a great success, a great opportunity to work at the university. Some of the other program highlights is Dr. Eno talked about the looking forward to the approval of the addition of an anesthesia assistant to the surgical program. So certainly we go a long way in helping in that area, anesthesiology. The new booking software platform, and then of course continued on the grade exceeding the performance in the cancer care for the Ontario surgical targets, and again focusing on HIS. So certainly a great a lot of good questions by the group. Certainly, and a lot of the feedback was certainly how impressed, how the great job that we're doing in that area. So another report we received was the patient experience. So this is a semi-annual report. So first one since October. So patient donations, the case volume is slightly up about 10%, for almost about 1,000 files annually. Complaints have slightly decreased, and compliments have increased as well. The patient experience data is really maturing. So definitely an improved response rate by collecting patients' email addresses. So that's really helping getting more data. The surgical daycare was highlighted as a strong performer. ED has also demonstrated some improvement since October. And Med-A had some more complaints, or sort of an increase in complaints. So they're working through that to get some feedback from staff as to what's caused that. The next report we had was the annual patient experience plan. So that talked about, basically it's the they finalized the patient declaration of values. And of course, you'll see that displayed throughout the hospital. The centralized lost belongings initiative. So we've heard about that. So that's continuing to evolve, and our project search interns are helping to help with that work and contributing to the process of the standardization. The improvements to the language interpretation services, so the rapid implementation of the lingo platform. So Leanne talked about how we had to pivot fairly quickly to a platform that became out of service. So that's been done. And certainly to continue work on the My Connect Care portal. So just advancing that collaboration across the region and with REN as well. So we also had a report from the mental health human resources plan. So again, the focus is on recruitment and retention, workforce planning, wellness and resiliency training and developing. And some of the key challenges, of course, as we know, is the ensuring there's an appropriate number of mix of physicians across the specialties in a highly competitive recruitment environment. Certainly some positive progress of note, successful recruitment in over 85% of the core specialties. Introduction of the international recruitment strategies, implementation of the electronic credentialing system to improve onboard efficiency. And certainly the next steps we'll be looking at recruitment in some of the gaps in emergency, pediatrics, and cardiology. So I think overall, the plan is building on that sustainable workforce, developing leaders and investing in people, positive and progress to achieve goals. We also had an update on the quality and patient safety plan. So that plan is looking at a strong culture of continuous quality improvement built on fair and just culture. And we certainly had Helen here last week. So a lot of the just culture education is now going out throughout the organization, and we had a good example of the decision tree and how that's being applied. And then, of course, the events tracking through the patient safety newsletter. An increase in robust processes, through the frontline engagement. That's certainly demonstrated by the work that the best practice committee is doing. Medication safety, expanding the active barcode on packaging, so to support the future workflow. And of course, safe transition, so the successful implementation of CMH at home and the improved communication with long-term care partners. The other report we had was the incident analysis precursor of safety events. So that's level 1 and 2. So these are like the defined. Yeah, I didn't realize how big.
It's been a really busy meeting. Yeah.
So those are so that is like the defined as the low severity incidents where no patient harm occurs, but could potentially lead to harm. So there's been a high reporting rate, which really reflects a strong culture, certainly and characterized by that psychological safety and staff engagement and the trusting and to report these incidences. The reporting volumes have remained pretty steady. They're about 80% of all the reported incidents, which really is a good sign of there is a good reporting culture throughout the organization. And finally, we had the report from Patrick on the OHT quarterly update. So probably the big thing here, you probably read about it, is the 3.7 million that the provincial government has invested here locally in Cambridge North Dumfries for a number of member agencies to help them connect with up to 10,000 more people to primary care. So certainly a successful announcement there. And then there's lots of other updates from OHT, and certainly encourage you to read more about the packages. Lots of great information.
Thanks, Phil. That was great. And I know there was also some really great information that went along with some of that in package 2 that people will have had the opportunity to look at. What questions do you have for Bill? You did.
That's on the job.
There are no questions. That's great.
We kept the 2 hours, didn't we?
All right, so with that, we'll move on to the next CMH strategic planning cycle on page 135, and I'll pass it to Marie.
Great, so thank you. The briefing that's in your package. At last month's governance and nominating committee meeting, I presented the proposed approach for the next strategic planning cycle and received some valuable feedback, which I have now incorporated into the recommendation that's in front of you today. So the most significant change is how we are framing the strategic planning cycle rather than viewing this as a delay we are proposing a 2-year extension of our current strategic plan. So in very practical terms, we're looking at 3 things. 1, continue working under the current plan through till 2029. We want to begin developing the next strategic plan in the fall of 2027, and with the goal to be ready to launch the new 2029 to 2034 strategic plan in 2029. Okay, all right. So the approach provides continuity while giving your organization the time and capacity to that's very much needed right now to undertake a meaningful planning process. The rationale for this recommendation remains grounded in organizational capacity. Over the next several years, CMH will continue to focus on a number of significant priorities, including our HIS implementation and stabilization, as well as our ongoing workforce challenges and some of the broader operational demands that we are meeting right now. Extending the current plan allows us to maintain strategic continuity while ensuring the next planning process occurs at a time when we can engage meaningfully with staff, physicians, patients, partners, and the community, which did serve us really well for the last strat plan. GNC also emphasized the importance of maintaining the continuity and accountability during this extension period. So in response, the briefing note now clarifies that our existing 18 corporate plans will continue to evolve through the regular annual updates and reporting processes that are aligned with the board committee work plans. And the current corporate plans will be extended through March 2029, ensuring that our organizational priorities remain current and that the progress continues to be monitored and reported through our established governance processes. Another area of discussion was the proposed rebranding initiative. And as you'll recall, the work with our designer Design to Plume began in 2025 and was intentionally paused to align with the next strategic plan. GNC highlighted the importance of being mindful of the financial investment associated with rebranding activities and being sensitive to that. And so the revised briefing note now explicitly reflects that feedback. By aligning the rebranding with the future strategic plan, we can leverage a single engagement, communication, and implementation process, creating a more coordinated and cost-conscious approach while supporting a unified launch of both the refreshed CMH brand and the new strategic plan. So in summary, the recommendation before the board is to endorse a 2-year extension of the current strategic plan through 2029 and to proceed with the development of the next strategic plan beginning fall 2027, align with the work of the CMH branding initiative, as well as maintaining the continuity through the ongoing corporate planning and reporting processes.
Thank you.
To answer any questions.
I think that having been at GNC, that does an excellent job of incorporating the feedback that was received that night. What questions do board members who may be board at or who were at GNC have for Bree around the proposed extension? Oh,
Just on the rebranding initiative, Marie, just curious as to do we foresee, knowing that we haven't up until this point, but given our use of the poppy, and where do we see that potentially playing out in the next 2 years, knowing that up till now things have gone well, but do we see any risk there?
I don't know if it's a risk, it's on the table. Like, so the consideration of poppy coming off is absolutely on the table. We've already had conversations with the Legion. We are not allowed to use the poppy. So right now we are bridging that on an interim basis. But we will likely see the so that is on the table for right now.
and I think
Maybe more definitive.
Paula's question was more because we're delaying by 2 years,
sorry.
the poppy will go away. And I would say that I think it's really having our response ready, that we are fully prepared to remove the poppy. We know that's where we're going, and then explaining HIS, like explaining why we had to delay that. So
So yes, it's a risk. we have been engaging with Legion. I think we've done our due diligence in terms of engaging with Legion, letting them know what our intentions are.
And I think the other is we always, we have a very defined strategy if it comes back to remove it right away, like in advance of this cycle, we have a strategy through Congress.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's great.
No, we're an open, but yeah, my face will be the logo of the, we have a defined strategy and it's very solid and it would be implemented right away to the Legion's requirements.
Thank you. Sarah, I saw your.
Thank you. I think this is a great initiative to, defer that or postpone it, given everything else that's on the go. My question is, and I'm thinking from the, not digital health, but the innovation plan, do you think that we have enough flexibility within governance, because this is moving so quickly, that would not stop us from the innovation path? Would it have to wait until 2029? Do we have that flex?
No, I think one of the advantages with our own process is that every year we create a new work plan, in your work plan with each of the corporate plans. So we do have some very high goals that we've laid out in each of our corporate plans. And then we try to refine it every year with what's a practical, pragmatic list of achievable metrics within the year. And so we can continue to do that. Like we have a longer vision in terms of our, I don't know, I want to use the right words, the goals of the plan. And so in your work plan, we'll absolutely align to that. We're not worried.
Great. So long as it is aligned with the priorities of the
It
organization,
is.
we should have, okay.
Yeah.
Right, thank you so much.
Other questions? Can I ask someone to please make the motion to endorse a 2-year extension to the 2022-2027 strategic plan? Thank you. Seconder, Diane, thank you. Any additional questions, comments? Anyone opposed? Carried. Thank you. And now Diane, page 138, approach to 2026-27 board and committee goals.
Thanks. And so there's just a briefing note there related to being aware of the impact of the HIS on the leadership team and the capacity within the organization. So asking each of the committees, starting in September, that we would not set independent goals with each individual committee, but that our responsibility would be to monitor the impact of the HIS and the various committees that we sit on. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions people have for Diane regarding this approach? Bill?
Yeah, I was just going to comment, like Stephanie and I had talked about this last week when we spoke about quality. So yeah, I think we 100% agree. And then even in quality, we said we would defer the program presentations until I think April, May, or yeah.
We'll see how we
Yeah.
stabilize.
Just to take that pressure off. And if we do have some program presentations, we focus on ED and mental health, just so
And I think that's a great example, Bill. It's really about stepping back, looking at your committee and thinking what could be deferred with absolutely no harm, in the short run to allow greater capacities. Miles.
Well, just to speak in support of it, HRS is a monumental change. It's going to be a lot to swallow. And I think it's prudent and wise for us to say when they couple up more than we can handle.
Great, thanks, Miles. Other questions, comments? Okay, thanks, Diane. All right, so upcoming events. 4.4, the confidentiality policy. We are going back to page 34, please. And Paula, what was your question?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, so just in regards to, I know it makes comment to entities, but just curious on like technology use. I'm just thinking about AI and how would that be advantageous to embed into the policy as far as how, the potential for AI use on open meeting content and things like that, and committee meetings as well. So just curious if that should be something taken under consideration before we approve it or for future iterations of the policy.
I think it's a really great point because we have talked about how, I mean, I think I raised the point that my computer asks if I want a summary when I open up the board package. So I think it's an excellent suggestion. We have one more governance meeting.
So I would suggest it, so we have internally had conversations about it. Because we haven't directed you as a board, we're just expecting that none of you are putting the closed package into an engine. But we've not directed you or asked you to sign an attestation at this stage to do that. And so I think confidentiality could stay, but I think an AI use by the board policy around what you can and can't do, I think is like, would look to Julia, I think is a reasonable work plan, 26, 27 work plan initiative that we could do. But I do think this could stand as it is right now, and knowing we'll bring it in the fall. But I turn to Julia for sort of reflections on it.
Julia?
Yes, no, I totally agree. And I think looking to OHA and sort of other folks in the sector, like having an AI best practice policy is actually standard for most organizations. So definitely something for 26, 27 for us to put in our policy cycle for sure. That's fine.
And we do have one at the hospital level. And so there are hospital policies that we just mirror to the board. And so we, as we look at that, maybe we just mirror it to the board or we see if we need something new, but it's a great point.
Thanks, Tom. I saw your hand.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, that one of the things that would need to be considered is, communications and the communications policy at all, is the way that we use email as a board and the fact that we're not using corporate email addresses. Currently, most of the email providers automatically scan with AI to their summary of any of the email that comes in. It just happens automatically. There's no yes or no process to it. It's just happening in the background. Gmail, for example, would be a good example of one that does it. So right now, you couldn't attest to say that we're not doing it because it's happening automatically.
Well, you're not getting the closed package through email, right? You're getting the closed package by launching it in the portal, right? So, but you're right. If we send you something confidential by email or whatever, not password protect, but or something, yeah, agreed. You're right. There's a risk to causing right now, and just by not using a corporate account. Sorry.
So I agree. I mean, when the AI policy gets developed, that should be recognized in there as well. So.
And I do think the corporate email is another one we could take away, like from management, less of a governance institution, more from a management, is one that's probably over the years that like it's sitting out on various things. And so Steph and I will follow up on that. She might be a bit, we could probably resisted the challenge of it just for you folks around how you'll now have to access email, which is, could be more challenging. We'll take that away. We'll bring that back, for the October board meeting for sure.
Sarah, then Julia, then Margaret.
Just very quickly, I wanted to add, just FYI, I cannot access any of the board packages outside of Canada. So it is an extra requirement by government. So when you try to go to the actual portal, even if you have your login, your password, everything is correct, it says sorry, it will give you an error message. But I investigated is when you're outside of Canada where you're more prone to hacking, people coming in and all that, we cannot do it. So it is an extra layer.
I couldn't open it, so,
Yeah, that's good.
Julia?
We do have some new board members and non-director folks joining us for 26, 27. So I think as part of orientation for them, just for us to remind them of the expectation around, using AI and tools and things and what is appropriate would be helpful in the interim till we actually have some policy that we're able to
And
tell
you know
folks
what,
about.
Julia, I think, that's a great comment. I think even when it is even when there is a policy, it's a really important part of orientation each year for new board members and new committee members. Yeah, that's a great point. Margaret,
I would just say the policy changes to the corporate email. I just respectfully request that an email sent to her personal email, say, please check your corporate email. But I know, being very disorganized. As you know.
Their email to look, I know.
Yeah.
any questions or comments? Okay, so because we pulled that item out, we do need a motion to approve the confidentiality policy. So if I could have a motion to approve confidentiality policy 2-A-24, please. Thank you. Seconder. Oh, Jane, thank you. Any additional questions or comments? Anyone opposed? Carried. Great. Okay, now I can go on to the upcoming events. And Sarah's Walk is in 11 days, Sunday, June 14th. There's a, oh, no, the one golf tournament just happened. There's a golf tournament on June 11th. The Galt Exotic Auto Show on June 14th, and the Clean Street Car Show on August 9th, for anyone who's interested. The next meeting is Wednesday, June 24th. And may I have a motion to adjourn, please? Oh, thank you. We are adjourned. And the next meeting starts in 14 minutes.